The year is 2017. This is what a game looks like. This is what a game looks like. This is not what a modern game looks like. When returning Outcast to the modern age of gaming, it was evident the game needed a huge graphical overhaul. But what else will be different about Outcast Second Contact? If you've ever played Outcast or have watched a video about it, you'll notice the world looks rather odd. The game's voxel landscape gives off a smooth yet dated look. Sure, back in the 20th century this looked great, but bring the game forward even a few years into the 21st century and you can be sure the landscape won't be getting the same compliments. This is evident even in the Steam reviews for Outcast 1.1. So let's look into the first goal Appeal needs to hit when bringing Outcast up to speed. In 2014, the developers released a video showing off one of the regions in the game named ShamAzhar. What you're looking at is footage created for the game's Kickstarter campaign. The landscape has been given a new lick of paint, with some of the rockier terrain looking far more detailed than before. New tree assets and fern plants have been added to give the surrounding a bit more depth. Global lighting has been added, with characters going in and out of shadows, giving the towering stone spires a larger presence. Now, given that this footage was from 2014, does ShamAzhar still look the same? At the time of writing this, there hasn't been any footage released. But we do have a good handful of images. Straight away, it's evident that the colour palette has been given a more mossier green, which works well given as the ground seems to be covered in far more plant life than before. The sky is a much richer blue, and the two moons now more lighter in colour than in the Kickstarter footage. The rocks have lost their dark brown colour to a more olive grey, giving off a feeling that even in the rocks there lies life. With the few shots we have, it's clear ShamAzhar is now a richer land full of life. Graphically, it seems they've updated the world but have based the landscape mesh on the game's previous voxel code, now converted to polygons. Hence the rocks now having jagged edges, something voxels originally couldn't pull off. But even those edges have this worn feeling to them, as if the stones have been eroded by time and weather. One other location which has been revealed is the game's first region, Aditional, the Guardian's hidden settlement atop a snowy mountain cap. Straight away, the world looks cold and covered in far more snow. The dynamic lighting is even evident with the torches just outside of the huts. Smoke can even be seen rising out of the chimney. The water even has a green tinge compared to ShamAzhar's cool blue waters. Even in this comparison shot, it's clear to see how much detail's gone into this remake. Okay, what the land and skies look like aside, let's take a look at character models. Starting with the main man, Cutter Slade. Converting the landscape to polygons is one thing, but with the character models it was back to the drawing board. So what does Cutter look like after 17 years? But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the things that Cutter will be wearing. His backpack looks far more sophisticated, with tubes and valves, or whatever that is, and the ability to light up, maybe indicating capacity or character health. The texture of his clothes are even detailed enough to make out what kind of material it's made out of. His headset and high-tech bracelet have had a decent update, with even leather padding added. And by now you'll also notice that he's grown a full set of hair. In the Kickstarter stage of the game, it looked like the original idea was to keep the buzz cut, but in the last few years it looks like Cutter was able to grow his locks out, even if they do look a bit greasy. Ooh. After analysing everything but his face, let's take a look at how the years have treated Cutter. Now, the one thing I was originally worried about was aging down Cutter to fit the younger protagonist seen in many modern video games. But as we can see, the rugged face of an ex-Navy SEAL has been updated to what we have here. Interesting comparisons when you put them side by side, with not only the original game model, but the opening cutscene render as well. One thing I've noticed is that Cutter's eyes go from green to dark brown to a now golden hazel. So what's your thoughts on the new model? For me, I think it's a great update for an otherwise low-detailed character model. The classic HK P12 starter weapon is back and doesn't look like it's changed in size that much. Also, we've been given a sneak peek at the destructive nature of the grenade launcher, the LN Duo 500. Lens flares most certainly confirmed. Also, before we move on, one last thing to note. It looks like the Ulukai symbol has been branded into the left shoulder of Cutter's jacket. Nice detail. Now let's take a look at some of the Talan. Again, with the few screenshots we have, there's only a few instances. So here's what a wrist field worker looks like. Well, it's really only a silhouette though. Hat looks good. Here's what a soldier looks like. really far away soldier. What if there's any closer ones? Oh yes. Well, this one's dead and face down, but at least we can see they're still wearing the same attire and still dropping Zorkins. Not really a lot of good shots there. Well, here we go. Now here's a good look at one of the higher tier soldiers. Straight away, the detail of this guy's skin and tone are hugely improved, and it looks like there's a few rank tattoos added around his body. And speaking of the body, the Talon have been given ears with points and everything. Also worth noting, it seems that their elbows now have a protruding bone. Before we move on, I'm pretty sure I've seen another photo of a Talon somewhere. I think there was one in the background of that cutter photo. Yeah, here we go. Just change the focus. Straight away, what strikes me first is that this face looks far more human than I originally thought would. In the original game, the Talon's mouths were far more lower on their chins than this chap here. In fact, this is kind of how I imagined it would look. Maybe the team changed it for some internal reasons, we don't know. However, we do need to take into account that throughout the original Outcast, Talon's mouths placements would go up and down the mouth. So we could just be looking at one of those Talons that have raised mouth. A few notes to add as we're talking about the characters: all of them will have new animation, especially Cutter's walking animation, and new lip syncing when they speak, which if you know Outcast, that's a lot of words to sing.
Still feel warm.
Another aspect which has been completely redone are the controls, which will no doubt be closer to modern games of the same genre. And one thing we had somewhat control over was the game's indecisive camera, which could zoom out very far, and then zoom in so much so that you could go into first person mode. The camera's been redone to suit the game with a far more smoother experience. Whether or not this means we can flick between third person and first person, well, we can only speculate for now. And lastly on gameplay changes is the HUD. Before, we had a green outline that housed certain information. Top right was the health bar, bottom left showed collected items and alerts, bottom right would be the world map, top left was weapon info, and center top was the compass. Now, due to a sneaky shot taken at Gamescom in the Second Contact booth, we can just about see the only thing that remains on screen is the compass. So what's happened to everything else? Well, the team have expanded on the idea that was utilised to locate close by objects in Outcast. Cutter's Advisor now has an OS update that now runs a rather nice looking augmented reality display. When a weapon is drawn, the information is displayed next to the gun, with the ammo amount and what looks like Cutter's health bar. And how about menus? Before, if we wanted something taken out of our backpack, we were given a pause menu with a few icons. Now it seems that the camera zooms into a display which gives us all the information we need in an easily navigated display, which also includes our Zorkins amount and our health percentage, which seems like Cutter will still rely on health packs and certain Talon or plants to heal you instead of opting for the modern health recharge mechanic. This instant info mode has also been added to game characters. One thing Outcast flawlessly pulled off was its world building, and that means the names of every character has to be fitting within that world. Keeping track of all these complicated names was always a struggle. You could stop and ask a Talon where a certain person was, and were set off on a wild directional goose chase. But now once you approach a Talon, you'll be presented with a pop-up box which includes their name and what essence element they are. Well, that's all the confirmed new additional content added into the game. So now let's move on to a section I like to call overanalyzing / speculation time. The one thing Outcast has quite a lot of is animals. There's about 9 of them in the original game. Now, I wonder if we're going to see any new ones. Well, in the background of some released artwork, we can see the well-known Adelpha creature, the Twanha. But look a bit closer and we can see something strange floating in the sky. Could this be a new creature? Well, no, not exactly. Apparently the artist just added these in for a bit more flair. However, they've now been replaced with the well-known Ventalope. But if there was an animal to be added, it might be the Damiliti. Daminili? A small rat kangaroo which was created but axed from the original game. Could this little guy be finally getting his time in the spotlight? At the last Gamescom, Appeal were able to show off Second Contact to a select number of game journalists using a PC with an Xbox controller, a Mac keyboard displayed on a Sony TV. Also at Gamescom was the German Outcast fan site Planet Adelpha, who were able to sit down and chit-chat with 2 of the game's main developers. And when asking about additional content, they said,
there will be definitely new things in the game never seen before that will reply to very big question on the universe, question that the fans are asking to themselves. It will not be a new maps or a new region, of course it will be too big, but we will place at some places some maybe hidden things that will give replies to questions people are asking themselves for a long time. So yes, definitely there will be some secret things in this version.
Could this be talking about maybe an interior to the Palace Fate, or maybe explorable ruins of the lost cities mentioned in Outcast? Or could the location of the huge broken Doka be finally revealed? Well, only time will tell. And that ends our segment on overanalyzing speculation. Before we go, let's talk about two things from Outcast which will be transferring over to Second Contact without any change. The beautiful orchestrated score by Lenny Moore and the Moscow Symphony Orchestra, a soundtrack which still holds its own today after all these years, and the hours and hours of recorded dialogue in English, German and French. I think we can let them keep those two the same. And that about wraps up exactly what new content will be in Outcast Second Contact. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, I always love to hear what you have to say, so don't forget to leave a comment and a like. Also, we want to make sure that as many people as possible know about Outcast before it comes out, so please share this video and others if you can. We have one more video planned, which is all about the lore of the game and the world of Adelpha, so if there was a handful of references in this video you didn't really understand, well, the next video will hopefully help you out. Also, I need to plug Planet Adelpha for being the gatekeeper of all things Outcast over the years. They supplied me with the interview footage, some of the exclusive pictures, and helped with a few of the information points in the video. Check their videos out for more Outcast content and news. You can find a link to Planet Adelpha in the comments. Thanks again, guys, and stay tuned for more Outcast news.